Hey guys, Future Michi here. So I was actually going to upload today's video. I thoughtfully rendered that with completely different footage, and as it turns out, I don't. I originally had it saved as a file, but I forgot to render the stupid thing, so the original file is gone. The audio file's still fine, which is good because I didn't want to refilm that. But I'm a little pissed off because it was a really fun collab that I did with Kendra. They didn't know I was recording it, but it was fun, and I really liked the files. So I looked back at my recycling bin. I was like, shit, maybe it's there. And no, they're gone. They're gone forever. I still have the finished picture. I mean, yeah, but I'm kind of bummed. I had the speed paint, and I'm also bummed because the current file, as long as nothing happened to it, I haven't even checked it yet while I'm recording this, is a test because for Christmas I got an external hard drive like I wanted, which I'm going to use for just my YouTube videos and just recording like files and stuff, so that way it'll be easier. So that's what must have happened, was when I moved it over and then I deleted it and it went to my recycling bin, it all got jumbled up and so that's really annoying, and I feel really bad, and I'm sorry guys for that one. But this collab, the one that I did work on, was so much fun. I had a lot of fun with it. It was very different. Kira no Hira, I think is how you say it. I'll boop their DeviantArt because I don't think they have a YouTube channel, but I'll boop them because they were doing these cute little end of the year raffles to enter in the new year, and one of my characters, Samantha, got picked, and I just loved it, and I was like, you know what? It's late. I haven't been sleeping well. I just moved all my video stuff over, so why don't I try, fiddling with the AVI files, see if it'll render here. So that's what this was. It was lots of fun. I did a lot of experimenting with this one, even though I didn't draw it. I just did like a fun sketchy style for the inking, like not really, like the hard taking my time thing. And then for the shading, I also did a couple of tweaks. So tell me what you guys think, and then I'll leave the normal audio because it's actually a bit of a topic video. So I'll leave that to you guys. And as always, don't want to listen to me and just want to watch the art. Go right ahead. No one's stopping you. So, this is gonna be another story time video. This video, though, however, has nothing to do with the picture. I was going to have this file be something completely else, but I recently watched a video by The Gabby Show talking about her experience in high school of one of her worst high school teachers, and it really made me think because, for those of you who see my blogs, my recent vlogs for Vlogvember, 2016, because I don't know when you'll be watching this. This was the Vlogvember of 2016. I caught up with a lot of old friends from high school, and we were having a good time and junk, and it really made me resonate, because when I caught up with those friends, recently we were just talking about how shitty our high school was. So that's what this is going to be about. So I'm going to talk about, let's get on to the story time. So I'm pretty sure in my previous videos I didn't actually mention the high school I went to, or I made up a name for it, but because I don't want to be sued, and I don't want this to backfire on me in any way, I'm going to change the names of teachers that I do mention unless they are proper good teachers. So if you didn't do your job, don't worry, you're not getting outed. But yeah, so I went to I shouldn't even say pretty. It was considered a rich kids public school. Like, everybody knew about this school, and I'll say we were the chairs, okay? So when we went to chairs, when we were in the chairs, it was, this school, how should I put this? I know I'm like rambling already. Oh, Joy, this is a great start to the video, Michelle. If you were not a football kid, and this is going to sound terrible to say, because there must be like, Michelle, every high school's... No, this school, my school, the chairs were like one of the worst in this aspect. Unless you were on the like super great tier football, forgetting the other sport. If you were on football, and if you were like one of the valedictorian, all AP, all doing extracurriculars, all keeping the GPA of the school up, they cared about you. But if you were just a normal kid trying to get through high school, they did not give two shits about you. They did not do their jobs. And Cody, one of his parents, is a teacher and has been a teacher for years, and he has told us how corrupt going to chairs was. To put into perspective, not with my story time, but Cody was so behind in credits, and they decided not to tell or inform Cody's parents, which by law they're supposed to. They have to mail you something. They have to inform your parents if you're fucking failing, unless you got kicked out. That, you're failing, you're not going to graduate. And if it wasn't for the fact that Cody's dad was a teacher and told them what they were doing was fucking illegal, Cody probably wouldn't have graduated. Cody worked his ass off towards the end and got his degree, so that's not the point of this story, but I'm just saying, to put into perspective, another teacher from another school had to tell this school how to do their shit. So the reason why I'm making this is because I hear a lot of people be like, oh, well, I went to a really shitty, cheap public school and no one cared. If I went to a rich kid, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm telling you right now, going to a rich kid's school doesn't mean that you're special, doesn't mean that you're getting any special treatment. In fact, if you're not, like I said, the football kid or top tier in the, in academics, you do not fucking matter. You are a number and you are a paycheck. To put into perspective, I'm going to do a small gist of little story times of my high school experience. And you must be like, Michelle, wow, your high school sounds like you had a really shitty high school experience. Honestly, I didn't. I mean, yeah, high school sucked, but I will admit, I was a dumbass my freshman year, and I put myself in a hole. So that must be like, wait, so you're just the minority then talking, Michelle. You just didn't do well. So, no, because I had friends who did do well, who passed great, who got scholarships, one of my friends now works as an engineer for fucking Disneyland. And, again, remain nameless, but you know who you are, and I love you. And they've all talked about it, how shitty our high school was and how it did not prepare us for the real world. Am I bashing on high schools? No. Am I bashing on my high school? Oh, yeah. That's the point of this. So, I will go to the first one that pops in my head. Freshman year wasn't too bad. That was mostly my fault, I will admit that, but I'm pretty sure there was probably a bad teacher in there somewhere. But my sophomore year, we had this one teacher. I will call her Bella, for the meaning of this story. Bella was a geometry teacher, as in she taught geometry for one period. And for those of you who don't know, in California, geometry is one of the mandatory classes you need to graduate high school. And it was my sophomore year. It's no big deal. I was working my butt off, taking it. Everything was fine. Miss Bella didn't know how to teach geometry because she was primarily an Algebra 2 teacher. Now, for those of you who don't know math, algebra and geometry might be considered maths, but they might as well be on different continents. As a math nerd like I was back in high school, I hated geometry. And it was one of the hardest things to do, but it didn't help that our teacher did not want to teach. I remember because it was the first week of finals. The first semester, I had gotten sick. I had gotten sick to the point where my doctor told me I could not go to school 2 weeks before finals. Like, there was the week, and then there was the week for final, like, there was a week this happened, and then there was our study finals week, and then there was finals week. So, yeah. 2 weeks before finals. And, my doctor's note was there and everything, so I obviously missed that much school, but I had friends get my work and everything. But I couldn't get the notes for that class. And even though I had a doctor's note proving that, and I had a week to study for finals afterwards to get notes, she automatically gave me a really shitty grade, because even though I wasn't in school for a week, by Dr. Quarantine, I was considered, for not having my notes done, to not pass the class, no matter what. And that really pissed me off. I tried talking to my counselor would just say, oh, well, if that's how the teacher teaches, I can't do anything about it. So, anyway, even though I got the notes copied, because I wasn't in class that week, she would not count those notes. And that really pissed me off, because I did the stupid notes. But because I wasn't there, I obviously copied from somebody. And because I copied from somebody, it wouldn't give up the student's name. That was considered cheating on the final, which didn't make any sense to me, because they were the notes for class, not the notes for final. We didn't even use these notes in the test. Now we're going to skip to finals week, right? So, well, you might ask, wait, how did you have time to copy those notes during finals week? Oh, I'll tell you guys. So, Bella decided she didn't want to teach us the week before finals. So she put on a western movie. I don't even remember. It was just some really bad, 80s western movie. in our geometry class for the whole week of finals, because as little chunks, you're like in class maybe 30, 40 minutes, hour most, but I remember it being like in small chunks like that. And she wanted to read Twilight. Yeah, our geometry teacher, the week before finals, wanted to read Twilight. I remember because me and my entire geometry class were so pissed that we went to the counselor's offices to complain, and all of our counselors for my entire geometry class, for my entire semester, told us, well, if this is how she teaches, then you have to do what Miss Bella says. So no one passed the final. The entire geometry class that semester did not pass the final. And I remember it because we were all back in summer school. The exact same class that following summer. And again, we all thought to ourselves and talked to our counselors, we're like, isn't it weird that the entire geometry class for, I don't even remember what period it was. I'll say third period. It probably wasn't third period. But for third period, had summer school together. Every single one. It's not weird. Oh, well, I remember my counselor told me this specifically. Well, Miss Bella has tenure, and she's a great Algebra 2 teacher. And so I remember saying, then why was she my geometry teacher? Didn't ever get an answer, and from a friend of mine who recently went back to check on chairs, Miss Bell still works there, and still has a geometry class, with a terrible grade. Because they were able to check in the system, and her geometry class, apparently for every year, has been failing. But the school doesn't care, because her Algebra 2 kids, those are the only ones who matter, yeah. Okay, so that's already 10 minutes in, talking about Miss Bell. I'm going to, let's see, where should I go? Okay, I had this English teacher. I had this English teacher for 2 years. I remember it was my senior year and my junior year. It's really cool, because I had a class with my friend who now works for Disney. And we were talking about that. We were talking about that because we were so pissed off. Now, as many of you know, and I have stated, I have some problems with spelling, and my grammar isn't the best. I'm working on it, but it's not the best. Now, I had this teacher for 2 years for English. I had English 3 and English 4 with this teacher. What should I call you? I'll call her Miss Great Gatsby. Yeah, there's a reason for this. So, Miss Great Gatsby decided that you could have any grade in the class. You could fucking fail the final. But the second it was the end of the school year, you could sit down with her, and she did this with every student, and would explain to her why you deserve to have an A. Now, I had been working my ass off, getting myself out of that hole from my freshman year. And I remember I'd be like, this is weird. I remember thinking this to myself. I was getting A's and B's on my reports, on my essays, and my papers. So was my friend. And we were both wondering why we were getting A's and B's on our papers and our homework, but the second test would come around, whenever we get tests, there were always these really weird tests that made no sense. And the reason why I named her Miss Great Gatsby is because, specifically for the Great Gatsby, she was one of those teachers that is, explain the color and meaning behind every character in detail for every book ever since the Great Gatsby. And yeah, I know a lot of high schools do that with Great Gatsby, but it was for every fucking book for 2 years I had with this woman. To the point where I remember that when I was drawing one of my characters, back, I think it was probably Tetsu, back when, it was like my senior year and I was doodling her in my free period or whatever, like before class started, she walked to me and she's like, so, why is her hair purple? I would be like, 'cause it's purple. It's just how I always saw it in my head. It's purple. She's always had purple hair. Oh, well, is that because purple is the meaning of royalty and nobility and knowledge? And I'm like, I like purple, and I always saw her as purple in my head. But what is the meaning, Michelle? There has to be a meaning behind it. And I'm like, fucking no, she has purple hair. But she did it with every book. Every single book we ever read. And to the point where I only remember, for having this teacher for 2 years, I only remember The Great Gatsby, because that's where this downward spiral happened. Frankenstein. Loved Frankenstein. But again, I had to color theory everything in Frankenstein, when Frankenstein has a lot of other symbolic shit in it. If you read Frankenstein, you know what I'm talking about. But it's just so, why did he wear a coat in chapter 4 or something dumb like that. Like, not even, like, I'm like, I don't know, maybe the writer just wanted to describe his fucking coat. Who cares? You know, like, I have colors mean certain things in my stories, but I'm not gonna, like, when they're putting on a vest, be like, what was the character thinking? Slipping on this white vest with gold trim, bronze buttons, blue sapphire, ornate designs, and a purple scarf. That vest sounds fucking ugly now that I'm describing it up in my head, but why? What is the meaning for this vest? Explain it in a two-word paper, in a two-page paper. Yeah, that was this teacher. So I remember getting A's in that, but when our tests would come around, we wouldn't be color theory shit when it's all she ever fucking taught us to look for. It would be like, why? I remember one was like, why do you think Frankenstein... It was something like, why do you think Frankenstein killed Dr. Frankenstein's wife? Spoiler for anybody who hasn't read Frankenstein, I guess. The monster kills his wife. And I remember being like, well, maybe it's because he was pissed that Dr. Frankenstein went against what he said he was going to do. And I wrote that, not as that condescending, and so did my friend. And we both had it wrong. Because apparently the answer was this, like, long paragraph that nobody got, because nobody got that answer. I remember because she, like, made a big deal about it, Miss Great Gatsby. But she would sit everybody down, and there was this one kid I remember specifically, because he was in the class with us the 2 years we had him. And I remember one year we had Miss Great Gatsby for homeroom. Now, how my school worked was we had first period, then we had homeroom, then we had everything else. Why? I don't fucking know, but homeroom never made sense to me. I felt like homeroom should be the first class of the day to get you started, but nope, it was the second. Sorry, yawning. Our senior year, I remember he always came in late. Every day this guy came in late. He would never do the homework, but every Friday he would get her Chipotle. We remember, because I remember one Friday in specific, he called in sick, and she was pissed off that she didn't get her damn Chipotle burrito. So anyway, we found out he had an A+ both years. And my friend and I would do the little talking thing, and I would bring up, you know, how I'm like, oh, well, I'm getting A's and B's on my essays, and I work really hard, and I feel like I very much appreciated passing this class. I know I don't do well on tests, but I know the material, and blah, 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 you know, trying to be me, trying to be honest, not trying to be a bitch. And we would get C's, but we would see people who would just give them sob stories, like, out of nowhere, be like, my parents are divorced, and I have to work 2 jobs. I'm not going to prove to you that I work 2 jobs, but I work 2 jobs. Oh, I'm also pregnant. And I have to somehow get a 3rd job now at Corky's. For people who don't know what Corky's is a, like, 24-hour diner. It's like Denny's, but better. And if I don't pass this English class, I won't be able to send Timmy to music lessons. And she would just be like, oh my god, I'm gonna give you an A. Even though I've seen you just ditch class and not do your homework and draw on tests. Yes, I had a student, I remember, who specifically drew on her test because she just didn't give a fuck. Because she knew she could just talk to the teacher at the end of the school year and be like, I got an A. There was another one too who I remember was just like, just a bad, like, just this guy was just a bad guy. Like, he would be what would be considered like a fuckboy on the internet now. Like, and I remember he also got an A, but all the kids who did work and tried, who didn't, you know, come up with obvious bullshit sob stories, we would get C's. Maybe a B if she liked you. Maybe. Reason I'm bringing this up, though, and I went on this tangent, is the day I graduated, because that's gonna be another story, another one real quick. The day I graduated, when I was done with the walking ceremony, I remember, like, all of our, like, teachers were there and whatever, and she came up to me personally, Miss Great Gatsby, and she told me, I'm so happy you're here, because I didn't know if you understood the material. I was so pissed, and I told her, I'm like, then why was I getting A's and B's on my papers? Oh, well, you filled the minimum page requirement. And I'm like, so you never read any of our homework, any of our papers, ever? She's like, well, no, I do. And I'm like, besides the AP kids. Oh, well, I just don't have time. But Michelle, you did it. You graduated. Aren't you happy? I was so beyond pissed because I'm like, that's 2 years I could have been working on my grammar and my spelling that, I don't know, my high school teacher could have pointed out the 2 years I had this teacher. But decided to wait till the day of graduation. So now I'm going to go on to graduation stories. Sorry, it's going to be a semi-long video. So like I said, if you don't want to hear me talking about my high school adventures, I don't mind. Go ahead. Click off. It's cool. No one's got beef with you. I just feel like sharing. Inspired to do it, and I'm going to do it. So, my graduation story. My senior year was probably the worst year of my life. It was also the best year of my life. One, because I met Dakota. And I don't feel bad name dropping her because I love her. So, I met Dakota that year. I found an art teacher that was actually supportive of cartoons, because my previous years, the other two art teachers I had, they were good teachers, but they were much more along the lines of artistes, where if you weren't in a gallery show and making paintings, you weren't really an artist. If you couldn't copy a perfect photo, then you weren't an artist. If you made anything from your head, you were not an artist. It had to look like it was there. But they weren't bad people. Just there was specific types of artists, which I can now as an adult I can respect that, But I feel like you probably shouldn't be teaching high school kids that if you don't want to do this exact version of art, unless you do this, you're not an artist. Anyway, so I had a really good art teacher that supported all mediums of art and all forms of art, which really inspired me. And I had to take an ROP class, and I had to take a bunch of online courses and everything to graduate. So I remember when I graduated, I felt so proud of myself and so happy. But I didn't know I was going to graduate until the night before the walking ceremony. My counselor called me and my family at, must have been like 7 o'clock at night or something. It was something really weird. And I remember I was just bawling my eyes out. Cody came over to comfort me. My parents were always, because I had worked so hard to graduate with pretty much no one saying I was going to graduate. Like, I worked so hard and it wasn't going to happen, and I was just so brokenhearted because I had worked so hard getting myself out of a hole. Granted, I put myself in that hole, but I remember I was just breaking down. And then my mom got a call, and she was so happy, and she gave me the phone. It was from my counselor, and he told me, he's like, oh, I can't believe I forgot to tell you, Michelle, but you're graduating, you're in the walking ceremony, you're all good. I was like so happy. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. You must have been so busy to find out. Thank you so much for calling me. And he's like, oh no, I've known for weeks. I just didn't have time to call. Let that sink in, because it sank into me and it hit hard. Because I remember I just hung up the phone. And my mom's like, what'd you tell him? I'm like, he said he's known for weeks that I was going to graduate. So the whole week that I didn't go to grad night, I didn't go out with my friends, I didn't celebrate anything. I didn't make, yay, congratulations, Michelle is graduating. I didn't get a graduation damn party. Because I had thought this entire time I wasn't graduating, that me working my ass off didn't pay off, or there was no point. And this fucker knew for weeks. Weeks. And you must have been like, well, Michelle, let's think of a reason. No, I did. And I have worked in the public school system. I was a teacher's aide for 2 years. He had plenty of times to call me, especially since he knew my case personally, because he had to set me up for online school. Now, for those of you who don't know, your counselor, at least at my school, at Chairs, your counselor had to set you up for online school, and you had to take the tests in your counselor's office. So he knew me personally. Maybe not as bad as some of the other kids, but I remember when I met him on graduation day, he apologized because he's like, I just had to take care of all the important students first. That's what he said to me. With a big smile on his face, the important students came first. In other words, the AP students, the kids who got scholarships, the football kids, not the kids who has been coming into your office every day for 4 years, working her ass off to graduate. She's not important. Not even a forethought to send an email, which I know he could have easily done, because he'd been sending a fuck ton of reference letters to all the valedictorians. So that shook me to the core, my graduation day, but I was still so proud of myself. But I'm not gonna lie, I was still sad that I could never have a graduation party because it was too late to send out invitations. I found I was graduating the day of graduation. There was that. There was, just all the stress and everything that could have been avoided. The final thing, like, if I remember Dakota and Cody were so worried for my health. I had lost so much weight my senior year from all the stress and everything. And, well, now, I gained it all back because I'm a chubster. But still, didn't take the time to send an email or call a student that they knew had been waiting to know that. Because I wasn't an important student. Now, you might be thinking, Michelle, so that's so awful. I'm so sorry you had that instances. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of little friend stories. They're going to be quick, because they're pretty blunt. But I had a friend whose father was a teacher at Chairs. I believe he still is, so I'm not going to say his name. He speaks a foreign language. And every year, every summer, they take, all of the foreign language kids. Doesn't matter what language you're taking. You get to go to Paris. You get to go to France. If you can afford it, obviously. You don't just get to go. But he would always tell all the female students to stay away from, we'll just call him Mr. Creeper. Mr. Creeper was a senior teacher who all of the staff knew. They all knew, because they talked about it. They warned people about it. That Mr. Creeper would get girls drunk and have sex with them in Paris. Because it's legal there, because it's across country lines. And I remember one of my friends who had Mr. Creeper, her senior year, brought up to her counselor, and they're like, yeah, just don't go on the French trip. Because he will try to sleep with you. They knew. They all knew, and they warned people about it. But yet Mr. Creeper still worked at the school. And only from what I found out from my friend, who I recently caught up with, that he was recently fired. And I graduated in 2011. So by recently fired, he was probably fired last year. Which is pretty sad when you think about it. And it wasn't like, maybe it was a one-time thing. Like it's like, no. Every single French trip, he would get girls drunk and sleep with them. And the whole school knew about it. And they even warned kids who went on the French trip. Should they have fired Mr. Creeper? I think so, but no. And then my friend who had Mr. Creeper her senior year, for the actual class, he taught a history. I'm not going to say which one, but he taught a history class. And she remembers that she told me that she and a lot of other big-bosomed girls in high school had to physically wear jackets whenever they went into that classroom, no matter what, because he would sit all of the big bitches, like as in big bosom bitches, up front, where his desk was, and if you were wearing a jacket or you were covering cleavage, he would put you in the back of the classroom. And again, they complained, but Mr. Creeper still worked there, because going to Chairs was such a prestigious and wonderful school. Oh, Michelle, you went to Chairs? I hear that school's so great. They get so much money. And I'm like, no, the school was fucking awful. And another instance of this school, of Chairs being bad, was, excuse me, my friend who works for Disney. He was in the school's tech program. I know it was his senior year, but I believe it was also his junior year. He went back just to help out with a production, just to be nice. He wasn't like, and you would think, wow, one of my students was working for Disneyland as an engineer. That's fucking amazing. I should be such a proud teacher. He gave my friend such shit for working at Disney and having a career. Literally. My friend told me, he's like, he wouldn't let me do anything, even though I knew how to do it. He was saying, he's like, I suggested, hey, maybe you should teach the tech kids about these different fields of being a technician. And I'm talking about the technicians like theater tech, not like, like computer tech. It's completely different tech. At least I think it is. This is from someone who doesn't do it, so I'm sorry if I'm insulting anyone who's in theater tech. But because my friend was saying, like, yeah, you could have learned more about lighting, more about prop design, like all this stuff that I had never heard of. It was really fascinating listening to him talk about it. And he offered it to the teacher, and he just wouldn't hear it. And he openly said to my friend, was like, well, so now you work for a big company, you think you're better than this school, you think you're better than Chairs? And it's like, he told me, he's like, I came here of my own free will to help you out because I thought this would be nice to talk to you because you were really inspiring to me. And he brought us like, are you stressed out? He's like, no. Just whenever I see these kids who are all successful, they suddenly think they're better than me. And it's like, isn't that your job as a fucking teacher? Shouldn't you want your students to be better than you? Shouldn't you want your students to succeed? But not at chairs. No, if you succeed, they get mad and they don't take the help at all. And it's it makes me so bad thinking about it because it also didn't prepare you for shit, and it got worse. I found out the year I graduated, 2011, was the last year that chairs decided to do English 4. So if you wanted to go to English 4, and for all of you kids who are applying and still in college or still in high school right now, to apply to a majority of all colleges, just, nationwide, you need to take English 4 to transfer, unless you're in California now, because now, since they're getting rid of English 4 slowly, which traps you here, unless you're taking AP English 4, you can't apply to a college out of state, unless you take English 4, on an online class or a secondary class or something. You need those English 4 credits, because they don't count as an English 4 credit, they count as it was some other credit, but I know because one of my friends took it, and they were like, yeah, when I went to my junior college, I had to take an English 4 class just to get the English 4 high school credit at a college that I had to pay for. And they didn't even care. They're just like, whatever. All the kids who matter are already taking AP English. And our AP program was so bad. I had so many friends in the AP program who would get mad at the other AP kids because they'd be like, everybody's cheating off of everybody. It's the only way we can get all our grades. No one studies. They'll have, because all the AP kids would be, in the same class. So they'd be like, yeah, we all cheat. We know we all cheat. The teachers know we cheat. They don't care. And it's like, shouldn't that be a problem? Shouldn't the school look at that and be like, maybe they should change? And I recently found out it's just been going downhill since, but it is still considered a rich, good school to go to. And that's why I'm like, what the fuck? It's not. They're doing the exact opposite. They are not teaching. They are not teaching, which is what going to school is for. I'm not saying, and there's so much they could have prepared you for. Like when I was going to college and stuff, there's so much shit I had never even heard of. I hadn't heard of MLA. I heard of MLA format. I hadn't heard of APA format. I hadn't heard of bit format. I hadn't heard of all these different essays you could be doing. I didn't even, okay, to put into perspective, that English teacher didn't teach us how to do a proper book report. So when I was taking a book report, I had to do a book report in college. My paper looked so shitty compared to everybody else's, and it was the point where my teacher was even like, Michelle, you're not like this. Is everything okay? And I'm like, this is how I was taught how to do book reports. I'm like, this isn't how you do a book report. And then that teacher properly showed me how to do a book report and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, what the hell? Why do people? So if you ever think the point of this video, the point of these little stories, because I actually have a lot more from high school, but I'm already about 30 minutes in, so I don't want to be too long, is that if you think that because you go to a ghetto high school or a broke high school or a not so good high school, just know that as someone who went to a rich kid's high school, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It matters about who's working there and who's in charge. Because those are the ones who make the difference. And that's something that Cody's dad taught me, the one who's a teacher. That's what he taught me. Because if they're all just complacent, they're going to stay complacent. They're not going to change. It's going to stay the same. They're only going to care about the kids who matter, which is wrong because every kid should matter. You right now, you matter. So if in high school you ever had a teacher that was bullshit and made you think that you were less than a person, I was there. Okay, I felt like such an idiot. I felt like, why should I even try to work hard to get myself out of here? There's no point. No one cares. No one's helping me. I'm not learning shit from any of these classes. In the 4 years I went to that high school, I can remember three that were proper teachers. And as bad as it is, that's a lot more than my friends. A lot of my friends have one teacher. Some don't even have that. Some have none. They're just like, this was terrible. I learned more doing an online class than actually being in the school, learning from the teachers who they should be learning from. So that's my story time, because I know people wanted to hear more story time kind of videos, and I know I got a little ranty and ravey there, but I just really inspired to do this, and I really wanted to share some of these stories. And if you want to hear more, I guess I can make a follow-up video. Also, sorry I'm not showing my face when I'm recording this. It's really late because it's the only time I can record right now. And I miss just doing fun speed paints. I don't know about you guys. The vlogs were fun. They were great. And my last vlog member should be up by now. I believe by the time I post this, it should be up. But look at me rambling. I guess I should end it here. So, as always, I will see you guys next time. Bye.